bless this family at the dawning of the day, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I say of the Lord, He is my refuge, my fortress, my God. In Him will I trust. He shall cover thee. He shall cover thee beneath His wings. My family rests in peace. Under His wings. Under His wings. No fear shall touch this house tonight. He shall cover thee, and thou shalt trust. He shall cover thee, His truth thy shield. Thou shalt not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flieth in the day. 1,000 fall, 10,000 at thy side, but near my door His mercy stays. Because thou hast made the Lord thy habitation, there shall no evil befall thee, neither shall any plague come nigh thy dwelling. He shall give His angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all thy ways. Under His wings. Under His wings. The Lord watches over
Amen. Amen. God covers us. Before I get started, let's go into our Father's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Lord, give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses. We forgive those who trespass against us. Lord, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thou you are the kingdom, the power, and all the glory, forever and ever. Amen. I just had to get up this morning. I had the prayer, a song that has a prayer in it. And just to start you off in the morning, just to calm down your inner soul so you can begin your day on this day for the battlefield for the Lord. Never know what you're going to challenge on this day and what you're going to come across, but we always want to keep our mind lifted on Jesus because Jesus is our only source and our only strength to get us through. Bring us hope. Because right now we are living in a world in some last and evil days. We got children rising up against their parents, parents against their children, and all this racial tension in the air. And, people are just being plucked out of here in the numbers. Okay. And people living in places they shouldn't be living in, even though they fighting against the system, but they fighting against rulers in high places, spiritual high places, places in spirit that is high. And it's just the way it is. And it's just the way it has always been in these here United States of America. But when you know Jesus and you know how things have always been, and you've been in this land for a long time, and you've been raised here, born here, breeded here, it doesn't get to you that much because you already know, okay? You already know not to trespass against anyone. And the thing is that we have new immigrants that came into the United States of America, which we really didn't need that overflow of new immigrants. We had enough immigrants here in the United States of these Americas. And when I'm talking about immigrants, I'm talking about bringing people here who really don't share the same values as American values are. Our Christian, and one thing I always say is your religion. Your religion is what truly is what shapes you in society. Your religion. And if you don't have a connection to the word of Jesus Christ, if you don't study the Bible, you don't read the Bible, and you don't hold on. If you don't if you don't study the Bible and you don't read the Bible, then you won't know how to build an understanding with each other. If people don't have share the same thing in religion, you cannot build. God said it himself. A house divided cannot build. You want to practice Islam, and some people want to practice and teach in learnings and follow Christ. That is not going to work when two people don't share the same thing. And God said it himself. God said it himself. And that's why you see in all these wars breaking out. That's why you see all these fights going on and in all these other places. See, this fight in Israel, what's going on right now with Iran, this wasn't America's fight. This was Israel's fight. But America got involved because they needed those Hamas straits open for to bring in those tanks of oil. But these people are blocking it. They blocking it from getting into the USA. So America had no other choice but to get involved. You see, a lot of the times these wars that you see, these are these wars that we've been having in here, these United States, we had our own wars among ourselves. We had the Civil War, we had that war was among ourselves. You know, you go through American history, you're gonna find out there was some wars with the French. There was some wars with the French Indians. There was the war with the Mexican War. It was all kind of wars that went on in America besides overseas. Most of our wars was basically here protecting our territory. And when people try to come in through our territory, you know, break in over our borders or whatever like that and do criminal things. And that was basically where wars start. And even from the Bible, you're going to see there was borders. There were borders. And anytime somebody came and tried to come over those borders, it was war. There was war. So anybody that's sitting up there, oh, we don't need no war. We need to have open borders. No, we don't. No, we don't. That is biblical to protect your borders. And anybody that's speaking anything like of such a thing like that, they're not a Christian. They don't know God. And these people are the enemies of the United States. That's when you're going to say communism. Okay? Because they don't have a connection to Jesus Christ. And you will find a lot of Americans were born right here in the United States of America, and they were never in the best interest of their own nation. People that came from all different places of the world who was born here in the United States of America and never had the best interest of the American people, of their own nation, because they wasn't taught about God in school. They wasn't taught about God at home. They wasn't taught anything. They just thought you just got here and you just here just to be free. No, it doesn't work like that. Remember, Jesus paid the price, and it's a debt we owe to him. So what are we supposed to do while we're here to stay alive and to try to live in this world together in peace? Is we got to come through him to know how to live in peace, how to be able to, you know, love one another. So anybody that's sitting up there telling you anything differently about it was, you know, sitting up there, why are we getting in that war? Well, okay, I guess you want to be dead. I don't. Okay, I don't want to be dead because you don't know the spirit that you allowing into your nation. The kind of look at what they just had to deport out of here with Tim Walls. This man raped a 10-year-old, and Tim Walls and his people over there with this TPS. So he was a immigrant, and I think he was a legal immigrant. He came here legally, but he committed a crime. He harmed a 10-year-old child. So right then and there, Tim Walls and them allowed this man to walk free and covered it up. And they found out, and they found him, and they deported him. I don't know if you've been paying attention to the news or what's been around that conversation, but these are the things that we can't allow to come into this nation, harming children like that. And God says that there is a special hell for people who harm children. And this man came into the United States and harmed a 10-year-old child. And then you had the other one who harmed, who hammered that Bangladesh woman to death outside in front of her store, even though she shouldn't have walked into that hammer, but still. And then you have the other, I think this man was from Cuba. He was a Cuban, and he was in, I believe he was in the state of Florida. He was first in the state of Florida, where he was arrested on some criminal charges, and somehow he was able to be let go, and he moved to Texas. And when he got to Texas, he chopped. He was at a motel or whatever in Texas, and the people that owned, I think, that motel were Indian, Bangladesh immigrants who are naturalized or whatever immigrants. And something about the washing machine, he said something about something was wrong with the machine or something, and he got very angry with the man. This is some of the details of the story that I got. And he got upset, and he went and got a machete, And he came after the man and he chopped the man's head off. And after he chopped his head off, he kicked it across the street and he picked it up and threw it in a trash can. Okay? We got these kind of notorious people that have been coming through our borders harming American citizens or just harming people in general. And we can't allow to do that. We have to protect our borders and we have to keep our borders safe. And we have to know who's living in the United States of America and who these people are. They undocumented. You don't know if they came out of prison. You don't know what kind of crimes they committed in their country. You don't know if they committed a crime somewhere else. These people, they don't have no identity. And they could be around among any of us. Okay, so anybody that's asking for this kind of America to keep their borders open, for people to keep flooding through our borders and harming us and invading us, then, you know, they don't have their best interest in the American people. Regardless of the fact that you feel about Trump or his administration, I look at the policy. I don't care about a color of someone's skin or whatever. It's the policy. And they not doing anything that's out of what is supposed to be done within our Constitution and within our laws. If people will only pay attention to the policies, if people will only read the Constitution, if people will only, you know, look to the law and what things are allowed and what things are not allowed, you won't have this problem. It won't even be a racial thing. It won't be a racial thing. It's all about living as law abiding citizens here in the United States of America, following the law. It doesn't matter if he's a Republican or a Democrat or whatever, but it's all about the law. And the policy is what they put in front of them when they get elected to do what they have to do to help, strengthen our country here, our nation here, and to strengthen our borders here and fix our immigration here. That's what it's all about. It's not about what you want it to be about. Oh, it should be a black man. If a black man ain't gonna do the right job, it shouldn't be a black man. Okay? If he's not gonna look out for the best interests of this nation, or not playing no sides, nothing against the United States of America, that's fine. But some things you gotta look at. And I think an American people need to stop using so much racial stuff and look at the policies and look at the amendment and read the Constitution. Take time out to read the Constitution and also look at the policies. President Trump did not do anything wrong that I see yet, according to his policy. He stayed within his policy. He said he was going to fix our borders. He said he was going to build our walls and everything to keep these people from coming breaking into the United States of America. He was going to crack down on these criminals that come into the United States of America. He was going to deport certain people that wasn't supposed to be here, our criminals, and that also include those who came here on living in the United States for a long time without citizenship, without having the legal documents. Even if you came here TPS, it's your time to leave. You were supposed to stay on top of your status, and you were supposed to check with your status. You had enough time to extend you extended your time here long enough, and they not doing any more extensions because really the thing is that these people didn't plan to leave. They plan to stay, and right there, that's fraud and that's criminal. That's criminal. Because if you come to a country and you want to here for a temporary um, time and you probably already had filed your documentation to come into the United States legally, if you still haven't been getting your legal documents together, then it's time to go. You have to go until everything is processed and go through the process, just like anybody else who's been waiting for their documents, and they still living in their own country, still waiting for their documentation to be legal and becoming a citizen of the United States or coming here as a permanent residency. whatever it is. But right now, things is now on hold. A lot of people from these third world countries, especially because they don't know when to go home, they don't know how to leave, and when it's the time for them to leave, they give a lot of trouble and problems to the United States. So that's why they starting to ban you, because y'all come and y'all don't want to leave, and then y'all want to cause problems to the government. Y'all want to. It becomes too much. It becomes very problematic. And everybody saying it's racism. It's not racism. It's just the way the law has always been. It's just the way. And I keep telling everybody, America is a Christian nation. I'm just saying there was not every president who led this nation was a Christian. Okay? They were not Christians. But the founding fathers of this nation and the people who fought for this country to build this country were people that came from all different places of the world who believed in Christian faith. Okay? From different denominations, but all came believing in that same one book, the Bible, where people were being persecuted all over the world for Christ. In America, build this foundation here on Christ. It's just a lot of people that never impose it and follow it through because they were not Christians. That's why I said you got to be very careful about the people that you put in leadership over your life. If they don't have a connection to the Word of God, if they're not connected to that Bible, I'm not going to vote for you. I'm not going to put you over my life. Because who are you following if you're not following Christ? This has always been a Christian nation. And that's why you see the hell going on right now in America. That's why you see God's judgment going on today. You see people going in their grave. You see people, children going into early graves. And you hear all this nonsense going on because these people turned away from the Lord. And when you turn away from Jesus, he cannot hear you and he cannot save you from the wicked snares of this world. Don't wait till it's too late and your loved one is gone and you up there screaming and crying and talking about, oh God, why are you punishing me like this? And people got to understand that. And I can tell right now, most of these victims, besides Carmelo, because he's still here, his life, he did do something that, he has to, there's consequences for, but still he's here. He made a choice. He was in a he was being surrounded by people that was going to harm him. So he tried to find himself free, and he used whatever thing, tool or whatever he had at the moment, and he poked someone, and they died, accidental death. But it wasn't intentional, but it was for him to try to find himself away from the crowd that was around him that was going to try to do harm, and he was being surrounded. So his thing is totally, and God let it be known that it's different than the rest of them. Okay? Because it could have been Carmelo. It could, if he was intentionally meant to hurt some white boy, that while he was there, believe it or not, Carmelo would have been dead. And that white boy would have been alive if it was intentional. But it wasn't that way. God covered Carmelo. God made sure he covered that young man because he also, in his young days, did something that was heroic. He saved another kid from drowning in the pool, but from his hometown where he came from. See, Carmelo family is an outsider to that place, to where he was in Texas. Carmelo family is not originally from Texas. They don't know Texas. They don't know the laws of Texas. They don't know how these people are in Texas. They didn't know that he was moved there because for his father's job reason. That's why he was moved to Texas. Other than that, his family is originally from Louisiana. And most of those kids, people from Texas, they grow up there, they were raised there, their family built their lives there, their family got political influence there, they got the law on their side there and everything else in Texas. Carmelo was an outsider. He came from a whole different state. He grew up from a whole different state, but one thing his family did have in him is a Christian foundation. And you can tell when a parent covered their child in prayer and with a Christian foundation, you could tell he was given a Christian foundation from the rest of the kids that you see going to an early grave. Their parents didn't pour no love of God in their heart. Their parents didn't teach them spiritual things of this world, didn't teach them how to be protected in this world or nothing. They just send them out and just let them run free with just anybody. You can tell. When you know Jesus, you can tell the ones who belong to him and the ones who don't. That's why I don't jump on the bandwagon when it comes to every young black child life being taken. No, it's not right to kill anybody, but you also got to look at things through a godly lens to see why these things happen. They don't cover their children. They don't protect their children from the harms in this world. They don't teach them no godly principles or nothing. They just drop them off here and just let them run wild in the wilderness. And then when their child get caught by some demon out there, then they want to cry on the news. They want to cry on platforms and they want justice and all this other stuff. And I say like this. If you don't cover your children in prayer and you don't teach them about Jesus, these are the things in life that can go wrong for them. Especially all this going on right now in our political climate. Yes, there are some older people now. The older ones that are there, they do need to move and let some young people start to be in those seats in government. Young American people, not foreigners, but those who had families who had a long history here in the United States of America. Just don't place nobody there, the first generation of immigrant children. That's a mess right there. But I'm just saying, a lot of times, and black people can get mad all they want to, but the truth is the truth. I don't jump on the bandwagon with everything. When you hear about these lynches and these killings and these dyings, notice that they all follow the same pattern. They run in first, like I talked about this one yesterday. You black, and you gonna go hunting with a whole bunch of white boys. I mean, with assault, with rifles and everything else like that. You're gonna go into the woods and go hunting with a whole bunch of white boys, and you the only black man among them. That shows you had no spiritual discernment. You had no spiritual discernment. And you could tell your parents were, or your family, your loved ones were not looking out for your best interest. Because I would have said no. I wouldn't think that would be a good idea for you to go out there hunting with a whole bunch of white boys with rifles into the woods and go hunting. You became they prey. That wasn't a very wise thing to do. And I don't see him getting any justice. I really don't. The way these white people are going to turn that law around and they're going to make sure that they get acquitted. They're going to find some way to stitch a story together to make it sound like the victim put his own self in harm's way and the victim caused harm to himself. I guarantee you that because of the way it's already been said. Look at what happened to the black bull man, like I said, Tebow, whatever his name, Osborne or whatever, the one that was sitting up there talking all this crash about black women, and he was on social media doing it, and he had a white girlfriend named Hannah, and he took his white girl, he put his white girlfriend on this pedestal and was talking all these high things about her and was sitting up there tearing down black women. And guess what happened? Him and Hannah got into it. Hannah shot and killed him. Her father was the chief of police. And guess what? She got to walk free. They didn't even arrest her that night. They just let her tell her story that the gun went off and accidentally he got shot. And she called on and tried to, work on him with some CPR and all this other stuff because she didn't realize this was like 4 a.m. in the morning. The story right there is like not sitting right. She knew she could shoot him, kill him. Her father was the chief of police, and she was going to cover it up and make it sound like it was an accident. And to this day, that man family didn't get no justice. Same thing with that Nigerian with his white girlfriend. Okay? The family wanted justice. The family wanted to know what happened. Blah, 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 blah. That's why I keep telling black folks. We're living in a different time right now in America. You have social media. You have these influencers. And they are sitting on all type of platforms, stirring up chaos, racial tension, racial division, rhetoric, all of that other stuff. That's why you got to be very careful who you listening to on these platforms. If they not lifting up Jesus, and even if they are listening, they are talking about Jesus, you also got to listen very carefully. Because there's a whole lot of them on their platform stir up a whole lot of mess. As much as I keep telling them stop talking about this Nolan Wells case, let the authorities handle it. Let this stuff go through the courthouse. Let the justice be fought in the courthouse before y'all running your mouth, adding more into it, putting more this and that into it. And some of these people weren't even there, don't even know these people. They don't care nothing about that family. They don't care about that family getting no justice. All they care about is getting views and likes. Clicks and views. They sit there every day. That's their job. And I keep saying the family need to shut up and go in mourning. And don't speak no more to the public. Don't speak to the media. Don't speak on nobody's platform. Just stay quiet. Same thing happened to Shanquella Robinson. No justice was served because people stirred up stuff. People started talking on this and talking on that and having these conversations. And all that messed up Shanquella from getting the justice that she deserved for when her friends took her all the way to Mexico and beat the living daylights out of her and beat her to death. That's why she didn't get no justice. Ashley Janae Robinson. Anytime these high profile things happen, notice how these people's lives ain't getting no justice because guess what? Social media. They get on their platforms and they start putting their part into it. Now, I know I did my part, but then I walk away and I leave it alone. And one thing about me is that I always put a scripture there. Because it's not coming from me. It comes from the word of God. And sometimes these people don't come from the word of God. They come with their own fleshly desires. They put themselves before God and they start spinning these narratives and they start telling or twisted lies and throwing all this other stuff on these people that are the victims. And then it don't work for the victim. It works in favor of the perpetrator. Because you shouldn't be talking about and putting information out there that is going to harm their case. It happened with R. Kelly. There's a whole lot of holes was in R. Kelly's story. It was a whole lot of stuff going wrong about the way things was done with R. Kelly. If we would have just allowed the system to take care of the fight for him in the courthouse, R. Kelly would have been home by now. But it's just been some people out there throwing out more and more false information and saying things about the judge, saying things about the prosecutors and harassing them and was out there doing all kind of things. And that's why R. Kelly, they didn't care nothing about them damn girls. They know those women were lying. But because of the behavior of some of R. Kelly supporters and fans is the reason why R. Kelly was hit with a RICO. And how they hit Carmelo with 35 years. Because of the conversations that go on social media that is offensive to the people that's going to be working on his case. And then it's going to be hard for them to find them a good, deep jurors. Jurors that is not going to be biased. It's going to be very hard when people are out there running their mouth, don't know what they talking about, weren't witnesses. And even if you were a witness and this thing is being investigated, you got to be silent. Because everything has to be the evidence they have to prove that's going to be in the courthouse. And the reason why these people keep getting injustice is because people out here on their platforms running their mouth. And you don't know who you talking to and who you offending. And then the next thing you know, when they get in that courthouse, they going to already be charged guilty. Or if they the victim that's looking for justice, they not going to get no victim. They not going to get no justice. They run to their platform all the time, throwing all of this stuff into it. And I ain't going to call out all these platforms. I'm going to let you go see it for yourself. I'm not going to say no names. I'm done with saying names. I already called them out so many times on my community wall, and I'm not doing it no more. Not like that. Not like that. I'm not going to keep going toe to toe with y'all and telling y'all, trying to warn y'all about these people. Y'all keep going to their platform, listening to them, throwing cash money on their platforms for these kind of conversations and everything. I don't support no evil. But I could tell you right now that this young man that died in this state, and you talking about the South, okay? You talking about the South, because in the South, it's a culture, and that's why most black people that were raised in the South, like my mother's people, that still never left the South, they are rooted down there. They know the South. They know what places they will go around and where their children will go around and the places they will not. And they know what time of the evening they should be out and what time of the evening they shouldn't be out. And they know if they're going to be out somewhere, they're going to stay out until the next morning to come on home. They ain't trying to get caught out there in no sundown. Okay? They know the South. Because the South, there is a culture. And it's just the way it's always been. That's why I say they come here to the United States of America, but they don't know every state has a certain culture. Places you don't want to be caught at in the time of the night. That's why they call them sundown town. I remember a long time ago, my ex-boyfriend, he lived in Illinois. He moved back to Illinois. Well, even though he was going through some hardship and, you know, in New York, so he had to move back to his hometown with his people for a while until he could get himself together. But he used to still come up and travel and come and see me in New York. One time when him and his friend drove from Illinois and they came to visit me in New York, in Queens, New York, that's where I was staying at one time. And they got to this certain border. They wouldn't say border, but when you get to this toll and you got to go through toll lines and you got to move to the next state or whatever, they got to Pennsylvania. They took this route in Pennsylvania, up in those mountains in Pennsylvania. And the next thing you know, he said the police stopped them, those troopers up there, whatever like that, them good old boys. They stopped them, got them out the car, checked their car, looking for drugs. They said they had the dogs on them and everything. And then all they did was hand them They didn't hit them, they didn't harm them, or nothing. All they did was give them a ticket or something like that because he was driving something with the car, something like that, he said. And he had to appear in court in Pennsylvania. And I'm telling you a true story. And he called me when they got back, when he got in town. He called me. He says, yo, he says, I got stopped by the police, the troopers on the highway patrol, whatever, up there in Pennsylvania. We was all the way up there. It was just me and Sherrod. That was his friend name. And he said they put us down on the ground. They had guns on us. They had dogs on us. They didn't bite us or nothing. They were really like, they were just checking us to see if we was trafficking drugs or whatever. But, but they gave us a ticket or whatever like that. And we had to appear in court. I gotta be back in New York. I gotta come back up that way because I gotta go to court up in Pennsylvania. And I was like, yeah, he said somewhere up this place up in Pennsylvania, up there in the mountains. Okay, there's a certain part of Pennsylvania where it's clan town. Okay, that's a clan territory. So anyway, so that incident took place. So when he came up for his court date, he was cited to be in court. That was like around August sometime. So he drove up to visit me with that August and stayed so we could go to court with him. I went to court with him. It was me, his friend that was with him, and his friend's girlfriend. So we drove up there to Pennsylvania for his court date up there in Pennsylvania. And when we got inside that courtroom, you should have seen how all those white people lined up. I ain't seen not one black face in that courthouse. Not one. And it was nothing but all black, white men, white women. They all lined up. We got inside there. He went in front of the judge, him and his friend, and everything about whatever the ticket was. And they paid their fine, and we got the hell up on out of there. But we did not get harassed. They did not treat us, and they just looked at us. But I knew that this was nobody but Jesus looking over our lives. Because if my ex at the time, if he didn't have a very religious grandmother and his grandmother was a faithful woman of God, and she stayed in the church praying for her grandchildren, for her children and her grandchildren. She kept her family strong and knitted together. And I said, you know what? Those were your grandmother prayers. He says, yes, that was my grandmother's prayers, because they would have been calling to pick up your remains. Okay, you and your friend. They would. That's what you better understand, and that's what a lot of these young black young men are not being told. Family history is not being told to them. They think they could just run around and go in any state and go hang out anywhere and no harm going to be done to them. And then they got family members who don't have a connection to God and ain't praying for them. So then the next thing you know, they just get caught out there. And that's why every morning I come on here and I say, cover yourself in prayer. Because you never know when the enemy is going to attack. Cover yourself in prayer. Don't be driving out here at night, going all up in the mountains and all around these areas, traveling or whatever by yourself. Because those clans, they got, especially they stay up in the mountain area. That's where they stay. Like what happened to those twin brothers. Even though it happened like in the daytime that they were traveling they was going to another state or whatever like that to visit some people, some friends, but they were found up in the mountains, in Georgia mountains. You have to be very careful about certain places you travel because that's where those clans are. They stay in the mountains. You ain't gonna find them out here on the street of city and urban places and stuff like that. No, you more safer hanging out in Watts, over in that territory, in the territory of the gangbangers out in Watts, than you is going up there in the mountains messing around with those clans. They like the mountains and they like to live in wooded areas. They like to live hiding in those wooded areas. Anytime you see a house hidden in those areas, like in the woods, that's clan territory. You don't. It's very rural, a lot of woods, and they like staying up in mountains. That's their territory. That's those sundown towns. And it's very dangerous for a black man to live on that side of the town and try to feel he gonna be safe. I witnessed this. I lived through it. My boyfriend, I said, that was your grandmother's prayers. And when we walked in that courthouse and everything, thank God we looked decent. We didn't look like hood rats. We didn't look urban and crazy looking. We dressed appropriately when we went to the courthouse. That's probably what else gave us some kind of grace and mercy, because we walked in there, we was dressed, we came in reference, we came dressed decently. When we walked inside the courthouse, we didn't come there in our urban wear, we didn't come with outerwear on, we just came looking decent, and they treated us very nice, and they just like said okay. And the man spoke, and I heard how the judge spoke to my boyfriend and also his friend that was with him, and he said y'all had to pay the fine because y'all was doing such or whatever, and they wasn't gonna fight it. They had the money, we got the money, and we did what we had to do, and we got the hell up on out of there. You know, we got the hell up on out of there. And another thing with Nolan's Wells thing is that they got the wrong representatives. And I'm going to say it now. These people don't carry a very good reputation, especially now with they being attached to that Democrat Party and everything else like that. Why would they go and get Ben Crump? Why would they go and get, oh, Ben Crump is going to do. I was like, oh, Lord, now you see Al Sharpton there. And Al Sharpton going to mess it up for everybody with his mouth. You mean to tell me you couldn't find some other black activist that can speak on your behalf, that knows how to know the word of God, knows the weight, how to use the word of God, and knows how to talk in a very calm manner on your behalf? You go and get Al Sharpton, he gonna mess it up for all of y'all. He's too aggressive. He's too racist. He's cold, and he has a lot of pain. You know what I'm saying? You got to get somebody with a fresh start, somebody that probably know how to use the words a little bit more calmer and know how to get justice done in a way where it's not in a unbiased, in a biased way, or making attacks on racial attacks or anything else like that. You need somebody that can speak without using race in it. When you get Al Sharpton in there, he gonna jack you all up. Because his time is up. And he comes from an urban characteristic. This is a southern thing. This ain't no urban fight. This is a southern fight because this happened in the South, in Mississippi. You need a nice southern Baptist, a nice Southern Baptist, somebody that got some Southern Baptist devout, and I'm talking about a real good person with a good reputation to come out and speak on your behalf. Not somebody like Al Sharpton. He come from the hood rat, hardcore, ghetto, talking black men experience. Ben Crump, he's from the South. But Al Sharpton isn't. Al Sharpton grew up in Brooklyn. His characteristics is made from Brooklyn. He's made from Brooklyn. He got an urban kind of approach. You need somebody with a nice, calm Southern spirit. Somebody that can talk with a good Southern Christian background. Demeanor. Not nobody like Al Sharpton. You dealing with the South. Totally different characteristics. Totally different when you battling up against something like this, and when it's racially profiled and it's racially high like this. You need somebody from the South that know the South and know how to talk to these people. You don't need nobody from the city, from the ghettos of New York. They gonna jack you all up. Cause he so. This is how what made me so mad is that he brought Mandani into his movement and everything. And Mandani, that messed it up for black people. Mandani don't give a damn about black Americans, but he will use whoever he can so he could get himself in here. And when I saw him hanging with Mandani at Black, bringing him around our, no. See, that's the whole thing with black people. We don't need no outsiders in our organizations. And I can't stand it. They're not there for us. Gonna mess us up even more. Well, anyway, I needed to share that with y'all this morning, because all of this racial stuff being spoken around. And I wrote this here. I said, when are they going to get Zaran, Madani, Ilan, Omar, Rashida, Saeed, whatever her name is, and that governor in Dearborn out of our government and denaturalize and deport it? I'm tired of talking about it. Do it already. Get them out. Okay, they don't broke every law in the book. Every done showed you everything in the book that they are not here in the best interest of the American people. They don't share out. They don't care about our American values. They don't share nothing with us in common. Why should they be sitting in our government? Take their people and take them back home with them. Okay? Because this is America and we're going to do it an American way. This is the foundation of our country. We're going to continue to hold on to our Christian values and we're not bowing down to your kind of religion and your ideology. Get your people up and y'all all going back to your country and try to fix the problems over there. And y'all make y'all rules over there and y'all government over there. But y'all not welcome here in the United States of America government. I'm sorry. Y'all got to make your own, build your own constitution in your own country. Get your people and get them up and out and take them back to your country and y'all could go over there and build your constitution. That's the way I feel. And then I talked about these Amalekites, right? Okay. The thing with these Amalekites is that a lot of times people say, but who are they? Amalekites are the descendants of Esau. Esau is the twin brother to Jacob. God changed Jacob's name to Israel. Now, if you know the story of Esau and Jacob, I think I told you this story before. Esau and Jacob, the two twin brothers. Esau was the older brother. Jacob was the younger one. He came out, but he was holding his brother's hell when he came out. And from the time he came, and this goes back in the book of Genesis. Now, when he came out of his mother's womb, because Rebecca, when she was carrying them twins, they were fighting in the womb. Okay, they was already at battle with each other. One had red hair, the other one came out with dark hair, whatever. And the thing is that Esau was the one who was more into the wild. He was more the one that the hunter and go out and buy, hunt food and bring home and everything. He was more out in the wild. But the father, Isaac, he loved Esau. God hated Esau. God hated Esau because he always knew he was going to be trouble. Okay? And he loved Jacob. And so what happened is that being that he was the firstborn son, he's the firstborn to have carried the family name, and I mean not the name but the family business. Be the father's successor. When the father got old and sick and he was coming, like his sight was not that good or whatever. So when he asked for his son Esau to come, okay, for he can bless him before he closed his eyes and go into his eternal death, his son Esau made some kind of trade with his brother Jacob. Esau was out doing whatever. He didn't find no meat, no food, no nothing. So he was really starving and hungry. So he came to his brother and he said, look, I need something to eat, man. Could you get me something to eat? He says, I'll give you something to eat if you give me your birthright. He says, look, I'm about to die. I don't care nothing about no, no birthright. And he didn't even think about what he did. So his brother gave him something to eat, and then the mother was around all of that. Because the mother, Rebecca, of course, she loved her son Jacob. Jacob was the mama's boy. So she made sure she switched it up. She switched them. When the father was going to die, she made sure that she was going to put Jacob there to get the blessing and not, and they sent Esau out because he was supposed to go out and make something to eat and all this other stuff and bring back to his father. Then his father would give him his blessing. But they tricked him up. So when he got there, the mother, of course, knew how to make the stew, whatever the father was looking for to eat, and she got the son to come near to the father, and the father blesses the wrong son. He blesses Jacob. So when Esau comes back, brings his father his food, and then he asks his father for his blessing, his father said, "No, I don't have a. I already blessed you. I already blessed you." He said, "No, Dad. No, you didn't." He says, "Oh my God, it was Jacob, and I don't have any other blessing for you. So your brother, you will have to serve your younger brother." Esau was angry. He wanted to kill Jacob. So the mother had to get Jacob away. So what she had to do is she had to send Jacob to her brother over there to Laban, okay, over to Laban, so she could protect her son from the other son killing her. So Esau and everything, of course, this whole battle started with those two brothers, Esau and Jacob. And Esau name, I forgot what he changed Esau names to, but Jacob name was changed to Israel by God. He wrestled with God, but finally he came to his senses and he finally surrendered. But Jacob and Esau was at this battle forever. And it will always be here forever. And that's why you see all these wars or all these fights going on all the time against the Israel Jews, and also with the Muslims. If you ever know throughout history, that's why I said you got to follow the word of God. You got to follow the Bible to understand the things that's going on out here in the world, how it all began. And it started with Esau and Jacob, and that's where the Amalekites are. They are the descendants of Esau. Okay, that's why when Israel was coming out of Egypt, when they was coming and they were weak, they had no weapons, they didn't come to fight, they didn't come to do nothing. Those Hebrews that was coming out of bondage, and that's when they were attacked by the Amalekites, Amalek, and I think Amalek was a grandson of Esau. That's why they call them the Amalekites. Okay, these are the Amalekites. They got that kind of spirit. That's the descendants of Esau. They don't praise the God we praise from the Bible. They talk about they made their own God in their own religion that they follow. They don't follow the God of the Bible. They is in the Bible, and it would tell you that story in the Bible. The Amalekites are the Muslims. Okay, that's who they are. Any faith that don't follow, they the ones who were the ones who attacked the Jews that was in bondage. They were coming out. They attacked Israel. They attacked those who were coming out of bondage. And these people were weak. They didn't have no weapons. They wasn't even aware of anything. And everybody else from all different other nations knew that these people were harmless. And God never forgiven the Amalekites. That's why you have to be careful about what religions you follow. That's why if you're not following the God of the Bible, then you're following a pagan God. And that is in Scripture. It's a spirit. And they hate the God of the Bible. They rebellious people. And you never know when they're going to attack you. So that's why you got to stay prayed up. That's why these threats that they've been making against the President of the United States, and they've been making threats against America and everything else like that, I don't take these people threats lightly. You never know when they're going to attack. And they showed us in every way that they're going to attack us, because they got Mondani as a mayor sitting there in New York. They got the other one over there in New York of all places, and that's when those Muslims hit those World Trade Centers. That World Trade Center, and I'm going to keep saying it, on 9/11. And that's why I try to tell all those who are walking in the Christian faith, stay prayed up. Because you never know when they're going to attack. Because they attacked that 9/11, and I don't understand how America ever even let them in their borders. I don't even know how America even allowed these people to even stay in this country, even give them citizenship in this country. I don't understand those who did that in this government. We have enemies working within, because they should not be living in the United States of America. They shouldn't even have citizenship in the United States of America. I don't care who they are. They could be the nicest Muslim there is, but I don't trust any of them, because you can't tell who is who from that group. You don't know whether they the jihadists or they the other kind of Muslims. You can't tell. They all the same if you ask me, because they all practice the same religion. They still serve. They don't serve the God of the Bible. They serve the God of their God. Okay? They all the same. If they not serving the God of the Bible, they all the same. As far as I'm concerned. And I don't even understand if they don't want to convert and they don't want to transform their life, and they've been here in the United States building temples and mosques and everything else like that. We shouldn't be allowing them to do that. I don't trust those people. And I just try to tell every Christian out there to be careful, stay prayed up. I don't think Madani should be the mayor of New York, especially after what happened to the World Trade Center. All them firemen, police officers, and innocent civilians and people that died. Even the people that were in the street walking that day died from that attack. When those buildings came down, people had all kind. I saw people come walking, because I worked in Midtown at the time, and I was there in New York when it happened. I actually had to go work afterwards. I went to work for a Muslim bank. They were pretty nice to me there, but I got the hell out. I did what I had to do for to pay off the debts that I owed, and I took that job just to pay them debts, and I got the hell up on out of there. And I still got from people that I left behind that's there. They still sitting around complaining and doing this. I'm, what the fuck you still there for? Why don't you leave? Well, what am I do? I didn't got. I said just leave. Find something else and leave. Have your resume circulating. Go on to other job while you still there. Just still be looking for another job. That's all. Why you sitting there for 20 something years and you still complaining? That just tells you got comfortable, you lazy, you don't want nothing better, you just want to sit there and complain. And these are fucking black folks, okay? Excuse my language, but these are black people for you. Don't sit there and complain. Leave. That's what I did. I sat there. I did everything I needed to do for those 5 years that I was employed there, and I left. I needed a job to pay off my bills, pay off my debts, and everything else, and I left. I didn't stay. I don't stay nowhere. When my spirit is telling me my spirit is troubled, I don't stay nowhere when my spirit is troubled. Those men were that place was very hostile. They spoke in their own kind of language. When they had their so-called Ramadan, all they did was they would pray. And that smell that come out of their pores and everything from the foods they eat, it was nauseating. It was just nasty. I had to work around these people. You think I want to go live in a country? You think I want to be? These people were I had an inside experience with them. It was filthy. It was nasty. You was crunched up on top of each other. You had to sit close around these nasty Muslim men, and they didn't treat women very nicely. They hired one black man since I worked in there, and the only black man I ever saw working there was a Nigerian. And they didn't like him either, and they kicked him out the door. He went and asked for more money because they were paying him too little. And after that, he got in an argument with the manager there, and they fired him, and he left. And that was the only black man that ever worked in that bank, along with The rest of them, the majority of people they hired there were black women. And you know what kind of black women they hired. They didn't hire the best of us, okay? Those who were probably educated, the ones like me. I was only the only one there, you know. And the rest of them was at low budget. And I got myself I got there, I got to see the place. I stayed there for 5 years. That was my goal. I had the IRS on my back. They had levied my account. I was going through some financial hardship. I was almost evicted from my apartment, my place and everything. I was one paycheck from being homeless. I had to pay off my rent that I owed to my landlord. My lease was about to expire. But they did do something good for me while I was there. And the manager, he liked me. When the levy of the bank hit my account, he made sure, and I wasn't able to pay my rent and pay my bills. I went to my manager and I told him I was going through this, and he was nice enough to loan me the money to pay off those debts until that levy was lifted on my bank account. Because when the IRS wants you and they gonna get you, they gonna levy your shit. And that's exactly what they did to me. They levied my bank account. I wasn't able to get none of my money. It was like for a month. They only put it for like a certain amount of time. But it was levied at that time that money was levied, and I wasn't able to go and touch none of my money from my bank account until they know what I had in there, and they took whatever was in there. Okay? When they want you, they get you, they get you. But anyway, they did a good deed for me. The manager and everything, he wrote me a check, and I was able to pay off those bills. In the meantime, while that levy was there, and when I got paid, every paycheck I got paid, I made sure I gave them half of what I owed back to them. I paid off you know, but I thought that was a very good nice favor they did for me. They know who's nice and they found me as a real true Christian and they treated me nice. But the other ones in there, they sitting there complaining and crying. I said, get the fuck up on out of there, leave. And they mad at me for leaving. They like, oh well, everybody can't. I said, look, I had already made up in my mind. I'm not here to stay. These are people that Muslims, and there's all these Muslim men in here, and I barely see. And then on the front of in the front line of their bank, they will have people that look like them sitting in there. They'll probably have like, they had no black faces when you walked in there. The only person you probably seen was black that was working there was probably the security guard. Okay, as far as like, but they moved out of that building when their bank was right there in front of that building. You only seen their faces there, they kind of faces, they woman face. They have some of they woman down working down there in that part of the bank. But when you go upstairs, like client services or whatever. But when you go upstairs in the back office part where I was, and in the human resource department, they had this one white Jewish woman that worked. First it was a Dominican girl, a white, some, fair skinned Dominican girl who was in the human resource department. Then they moved her out. She left, and then here came this they hired this Jewish white woman as the human resource department, and she ain't know half of the shit she was doing. I had to help her. It was crazy though. She ain't even only hired her because she was white. They didn't hire her because she do her fucking job because she ain't know shit. I had to go and help her with her goddamn work. Like she would come and ask me and I'll just go and help her. You know what I'm saying? For real. So, just the way to cover up they thing. And then there was this one black girl that came and she set a lawsuit out on them. Said the place was a very hostile workplace. She said the place was dirty, unsanitized, and all kind of other stuff. And then they start questioning people who did that. Did I sign up with this girl? Did I go against the bank and all this? I said, look, I don't know nothing about that. Which I really didn't, but we know she did it. But I wasn't gonna tell. I didn't tell on her. I didn't rat on her. And they said, well, she owed the money to the bank, and she left, and she took a loan out, and she left the bank and everything else like that. But I don't know what happened. I didn't know what was going on. I just mind my business. I just was trying to get myself the fuck up on out of there. Okay, I was not trying to stay the rest of my life in that hostile workplace. I just was not doing it. I was an American. I was used to something different. And I was not staying in that hellhole. Well, anyway, y'all, let me get myself together and get myself up on out of here. So, anyway, it's been a blessing talking to you all. I hope I was able to help someone by sharing some of my stories with you and about how sometimes it could be social media that can cause a lot of the problems that are happening around the lives of these young black men who you find going missing and killed mysteriously, hung, lynched, whatever. And just be careful about who you listen to on whatever platform and what they're telling you. And also make sure you stay covered in prayer and keep your loved ones covered in prayer because we are living in some last and evil days, and you are living around the spirits of people that are around, and you have to know where you going, your territory. You got to know about these spiritual territories, know about these states, know about these, especially in the South, the KKK. They run the South, okay? And you just got to know that. It's just that's just the way it is down in Mississippi, Alabama, in those places like that. Those are the South. And when you want to move your family down there, you better make sure you move your family around a place where you feel is safe. Don't just be moving somewhere just saying, "Oh, it's nice out." No, You got to learn the history of places before you go there, and especially up in there in the mountains. When